Alex had always thought of himself as just a technician, nothing special. He worked in a high-security alien research facility, a place that most people couldn't even imagine. The facility was hidden deep underground, far from the busy cities. Above, the scientists and military personnel inside were highly trained, and they worked on projects that involved studying the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. But Alex wasn't like them. He was a regular guy who just wanted to do his job and go home. He had been there for 3 years, working on maintenance, repairing systems, and keeping everything running smoothly. Most of his days were spent fixing broken wires, cleaning up, and making sure the lights stayed on. But there was one part of the facility that he had always avoided: the containment area. The containment area was where they kept the most dangerous and mysterious alien species. The creatures inside were never seen by the public, only by the highest-ranking scientists and soldiers. The doors were thick and heavily reinforced, and no one could get close without proper clearance. It was a place of secrets and fear. One morning, Alex was given an unusual task. The usual crew of guards was busy with another mission, so he was asked to check on the systems in the containment area. It wasn't part of his normal duties, but Alex didn't mind. It was a break from the usual work. He grabbed his tools and headed to the entrance of the containment area. As he walked down the long, cold hallway, Alex couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He had heard stories about the creatures kept inside. Some of them were said to be giant, terrifying beasts, while others were intelligent, almost human-like. The stories were exaggerated, of course, but the mystery of the place still gave him a chill. When he reached the entrance, a guard stepped forward and waved him through. "You're in charge of maintenance today, right?" the guard asked. Alex nodded. "Yep, that's me." The guard gave him a quick smile. "Just make sure you don't go near the cage. You'll get into trouble if you do." Alex didn't think much of it at the time. He had never been near the cage before, and he didn't intend to start now. His job was simple: check the power systems, make sure the lights were working, and leave. But when he walked into the containment area, something strange caught his eye. In the center of the room was a massive cage, larger than anything Alex had ever seen. The bars were thick, the walls reinforced with layers of metal and energy shields. Inside the cage, sitting on the cold, hard floor, was a creature unlike anything Alex had ever imagined. It was enormous. The alien was easily over 10 feet tall, its body covered in thick, tough-looking skin that shimmered with an eerie green hue. It had a long, muscular tail that coiled around its feet, and its hands, if you could call them hands, were as big as Alex's torso. Each finger ended in a sharp claw that looked capable of ripping through steel. The creature's head was the most terrifying part. It had 2 large eyes, dark and hollow, that seemed to watch Alex's every move. Its mouth was filled with rows of jagged teeth, and its body was a mix of both alien and animalistic features. But despite its terrifying appearance, it wasn't moving. It was sitting quietly, staring at him. Alex froze in place. He had never seen the creature up close before. He had heard stories of how the other workers avoided coming here because of the danger it posed. The alien had been captured months ago, and no one dared to approach it. The higher-ups had made it clear that the creature was too dangerous to be kept anywhere other than a secure cage. But now, seeing it up close, Alex couldn't help but wonder. Why was it so still? Why wasn't it trying to break out like all the stories had said it would? For a long moment, the two of them simply stared at each other. Alex could feel his heart pounding in his chest. The creature didn't move, but Alex was certain it was aware of him. He had heard the rumors. The alien had been the last of its kind, an ancient warrior captured in a galactic war. Some said it could read minds, while others claimed it could control people with just a glance. But none of that made sense to Alex right now. All he knew was that this creature, despite its size and power, was silent and still, waiting for something. The moment stretched on, and Alex could feel the weight of the creature's gaze pressing down on him. He swallowed hard, trying to shake off the nervousness. "I'm just here to check the systems," he muttered, though he wasn't sure the alien would understand him. Then, without warning, the creature shifted slightly. Alex's breath caught in his throat as the giant alien's massive head turned toward him. Its eyes locked onto Alex's, and for the first time, it moved. Just the slightest movement, but enough to send a chill down Alex's spine. The alien's mouth opened, revealing rows of sharp teeth, and it let out a low growl. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea what it wanted, but he couldn't help but feel an odd sense of empathy. The creature was hungry. It looked weak, almost fragile, despite its terrifying appearance. Alex had heard rumors about the creature's hunger. It had been without food for days, maybe even weeks. The facility staff had been too afraid to feed it, unsure of how to approach such a powerful and dangerous being. They believed that feeding it would only make it more powerful and more dangerous. But as Alex looked at the alien's eyes, something in him stirred. It wasn't just fear. It was something else. A feeling that this creature, despite its power, was just like him. It was trapped, isolated, and alone. Alex took a deep breath and made a decision. Without another thought, he turned and walked toward the supply room. He knew what he had to do. Alex couldn't get the image of the alien out of his mind. Its massive eyes had stared at him as though it was trying to understand him, and in that moment, Alex felt a strange connection. He had always been a curious person, but this was different. There was something about the alien, its silence, its stillness, that made Alex feel sorry for it. It was more than just a creature locked away in a cage. It was a living being, and like any living being, it deserved respect. And food. As he walked back to his small, quiet workroom, Alex kept thinking about the alien. He knew the stories. The creature had been captured in a far-off war between its species and a powerful galactic empire. It had been the last of its kind, the sole survivor of a brutal conflict. Now it was trapped in a cage, left alone for days, its hunger growing. The rumors about the alien's dangerous powers kept the guards at bay. The higher-ups had given strict orders not to approach it unless necessary, and feeding it wasn't necessary, not yet. The alien had to be kept weak, they said. If it got too strong, no one would be able to contain it. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling that it was wrong. The creature wasn't a monster. It was just hungry, just like any other animal in the galaxy. And no one else seemed willing to help it. The guards, the scientists, they all kept their distance, terrified of what the alien might do if it was fed. But Alex couldn't ignore it. He couldn't turn a blind eye to the creature's suffering. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. The thought of the alien's hunger gnawed at him, keeping him awake. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw its massive eyes staring at him, its body hunched in hunger and loneliness. He knew what he had to do. It was dangerous, he knew that. But what was the point of being safe if it meant letting someone, or something, suffer? The creature had already suffered enough. The next morning, Alex made up his mind. He would feed it. He didn't know how, or even if he could manage it without getting caught, but he couldn't just walk away. He gathered his courage, then grabbed some food from the storage room. The facility's rations were meant for the alien species, but Alex wasn't sure what would work best. He decided on a mix of protein and fruit, something simple, yet nutritious. He didn't know what the creature ate, but he hoped this might be enough to make a difference. The journey back to the containment area felt like the longest walk of Alex's life. His heart raced as he approached the secure door that led to the alien's cage. He glanced over his shoulder, ensuring no one was watching him. The hallways were eerily quiet, as they usually were in the early hours of the morning. Everyone was still asleep, and Alex hoped it would stay that way. When he reached the door, he hesitated for a moment, staring at the massive steel barrier that separated him from the creature. The walls were lined with security cameras and guards, but the hallway outside was empty. Alex took a deep breath, pushed the door open just a crack, and slipped inside. The room was darker than he remembered, the only light coming from a faint glow in the corner. The alien was still there, sitting in the same position it had been earlier. Alex felt a pang of sympathy as he saw the creature's eyes follow him as he entered. The alien's gaze was no longer filled with aggression, but rather curiosity. Alex moved slowly, carefully, not wanting to startle it. The last thing he needed was for the alien to feel threatened. He placed the food on a small metal tray, and gently slid it through the bars of the cage. The alien's eyes locked onto the food immediately, its large head tilting as if it were unsure whether it should trust Alex. For a moment, Alex stood still, watching the creature. His palms were sweating, his heart beating faster than before. He didn't know if feeding it would help or if it would only make the situation worse, but he had to try. The alien sniffed the food cautiously, its large nostrils flaring. It stretched out a long, clawed hand, hesitated, and then snatched the food. Alex held his breath. Would it eat? Would it tear the food apart in a rage? But to his surprise, the alien brought the food to its mouth, eating slowly and carefully. It seemed to savor every bite, as if it hadn't eaten in days or maybe even longer. Alex exhaled, feeling a rush of relief. The alien wasn't attacking. It wasn't showing aggression. It was simply eating, just like any other creature in the galaxy. The sight of it, so peaceful, made Alex feel even more connected to it. This alien wasn't the monster everyone thought it was. It was just hungry and alone, locked away by a system that didn't care about its well-being. For several minutes, Alex stood there, watching the creature eat. It didn't seem to mind his presence, though it did occasionally glance up at him, its eyes still filled with that same strange, quiet intelligence. Alex could feel a bond forming between them, a quiet understanding. He wasn't sure what the future held for this alien, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't let it stay trapped and hungry any longer. When the food was gone, the alien stood up slowly, stretching its massive limbs. It was almost graceful, despite its size, moving with a kind of fluidity that made it seem less monstrous. It looked at Alex once more, its eyes lingering on him for a moment longer than before. Then, without warning, it let out a soft growl, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through the floor beneath Alex's feet. Alex took a step back, startled. He wasn't sure what the growl meant, but it didn't sound threatening. In fact, it sounded grateful. He wasn't sure, but it made him feel oddly comforted. The alien had eaten. It was full for now. And it hadn't attacked. For a brief moment, the two of them shared a silent understanding. Alex smiled softly to himself, even though he was still terrified. He'd done something no one else had dared to do. He had fed the caged giant alien, and for the first time it felt like the creature wasn't just a monster. It was a living being just like him. As Alex quietly slipped out of the containment area and back into the hallways, he knew that things had changed. He had taken a step no one else had been willing to take. And no matter what happened next, he had made a difference. Alex didn't expect much to change after feeding the alien. He thought it would be a one-time thing, a quiet moment of kindness that no one would ever know about. But as the days passed, something unexpected began to happen. Every time Alex entered the containment area, the alien greeted him. It wasn't with the violent growls or aggressive gestures the others had warned him about. No, the alien seemed to recognize him, its massive eyes following his every movement as if it was waiting for him. The facility was still running the same. Scientists and guards came and went, but no one dared approach the cage. The higher-ups still gave strict orders to avoid feeding the creature, and it remained isolated. Alex, however, couldn't ignore the bond he had started to form with the alien. Every time he passed the containment area, he found himself looking over at the massive creature, feeling a strange pull. He wasn't sure if it was the creature's silent, watchful gaze or his own growing sense of responsibility, but he couldn't help it. He had to return. The next time he visited the containment area, he brought a few more rations. He had noticed that the alien seemed particularly fond of the protein-based food, so he brought more of that along with some fruit. When he stepped into the room, the alien was waiting. Its head was tilted slightly as if it was curious about Alex's presence. The creature's massive body, once hunched and still, was now more upright, its posture relaxed. It was watching him closely, as if it knew he was the one who had been feeding it. Alex took a deep breath and approached the cage slowly, making sure not to make any sudden movements. The alien didn't make any noise this time. It simply observed him. He placed the food on the metal tray and slid it through the bars. The alien's gaze didn't leave him as it reached for the food, its huge hands moving with surprising gentleness. "Here you go," Alex said softly, though he wasn't sure if the creature could understand him. "I brought more today. I hope you like it." To his surprise, the alien made a low sound, almost like a hum. Alex wasn't sure what it meant, but it sounded like approval. The creature picked up the food with its claws and began to eat, still watching Alex carefully. Alex stood back, his heart racing, unsure of how to react. The alien was eating again, but it wasn't just eating like an animal. It was eating with purpose, taking small, deliberate bites, and its eyes never left Alex's face. Alex took a step closer, still unsure of how to proceed. He wanted to speak to the alien, but he didn't know what he could say. He had never been trained to communicate with aliens. Most of the scientists in the facility spoke about the creatures they studied in clinical terms, as if they were nothing more than subjects in a lab. But Alex had never felt that way. The alien wasn't just an object to be studied. It was a being, a living creature with its own thoughts and feelings. He reached out slowly, placing his hand against the bars of the cage. The alien's eyes followed his every movement, and for a moment neither of them moved. It was as if they were both waiting for something, unsure of what to do next. Alex wasn't sure if the creature would allow him to touch it, but then, to his surprise, the alien extended one of its massive hands toward him, stopping just short of the bars. It was as if it was offering something. Trust, maybe. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had read about alien species with telepathic abilities, but he wasn't sure if that was true for this one. Still, the connection between them felt real. It was more than just physical. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a shared moment that neither of them had ever had before. "I won't hurt you," Alex said quietly. Though he wasn't sure if the alien understood, it didn't matter. In that moment, it felt like the alien did understand. The creature didn't pull back. Instead, it gently pressed its hand against the bars, as though it was trying to reassure Alex that it wasn't afraid. Alex's fingers brushed the metal bars as he reached out, feeling the warmth of the creature's presence. The alien's skin was rough and textured, like stone, but it was warm to the touch. Alex could almost feel the alien's pulse beneath the surface, a steady rhythm that reminded him that this was a living being, not just a creature to be studied. For the next few minutes, Alex and the alien remained in silence, each of them acknowledging the other in their own way. The alien finished its food and stood up, its massive form towering over Alex. It stretched its arms, flexing its long limbs, and Alex couldn't help but admire the creature's grace despite its size. The alien wasn't just a mindless monster. It was intelligent. It was aware. And in that moment, Alex felt like it was reaching out to him, not with its claws or its power, but with its quiet strength. "Thank you," Alex whispered, even though he wasn't sure if the alien could hear him. "You don't have to be alone anymore." The alien tilted its head slightly as though considering his words. Alex wasn't sure if it understood, but he hoped that it did. After a moment, the creature turned and moved to the far side of the cage, settling down once more. It glanced back at Alex, its eyes still filled with that strange, quiet intelligence. Alex stood there for a while, unsure of what to do next. He had never felt this way about an alien before. Most of the people in the facility treated the creatures like objects, like things to be studied and experimented on. But Alex didn't see it that way. The alien wasn't just a subject of curiosity. It was a being with its own history, its own experiences, and its own emotions. And now, Alex was starting to see that maybe the alien needed something more than just food. It needed understanding, companionship, and maybe, just maybe, a friend. As Alex left the containment area that day, he felt something shift inside him. The alien had come to trust him, and in return he had begun to trust the creature. He didn't know where this connection would lead or what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. Things were changing. The alien wasn't just a prisoner anymore, and neither was Alex. Days passed, and the bond between Alex and the alien deepened. What had started as a simple act of kindness, feeding a hungry creature, had turned into something far more profound. Alex visited the containment area every chance he got, bringing more food, but also offering a sense of companionship that no one else dared to provide. He spoke to the alien, though he still wasn't sure if it could understand his words. Yet with each passing visit, the creature seemed to respond more and more. It had started to trust him in ways that Alex never expected. One morning, Alex was called into the security office for a routine check. As he walked through the halls of the facility, he overheard a conversation between two of the senior scientists. They were talking about the alien again, as they always did in hushed tones. Alex wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the words caught his attention. "We still don't have all the data on it. The creature's abilities are beyond anything we've seen before. It's a walking weapon, and we need to figure out how to control it." Alex's stomach turned. The alien was more than just a prisoner. It was a tool, a weapon in the eyes of the higher-ups. The conversation continued, and the more Alex listened, the more horrified he became. The creature wasn't being kept here for study. It was being kept here for its potential as a weapon, a tool of war. The scientists had no intention of helping it. They weren't interested in understanding it, they just wanted to learn how to use its power. Alex's mind raced. He had never thought of the alien as a weapon. To him, it was just a creature, a being who had been caught in the middle of something much larger than itself. But now, hearing this, it became clear. The alien was more than just an experiment. It was a living being caught in a war it had never asked for. He left the security office feeling uneasy, his thoughts swirling. He knew what he had to do. He had to find out more about the alien, about its past. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that he had been blind. The alien wasn't just some monster. It had a history. It had a story, one that no one had bothered to uncover. That afternoon, Alex returned to the containment area. As usual, the alien was waiting for him. Its massive eyes followed him as he entered, but it didn't seem frightened or aggressive. It was calm, as it always was when Alex arrived. He placed the food on the tray and slid it through the bars. The alien took the food, but this time Alex noticed something different. It wasn't just eating. It was staring at him, its eyes locked onto his with a strange intensity. "Hey, big guy," Alex said, trying to keep his voice light. "I've been thinking about you a lot. There's something I need to know." The alien continued to stare at him, its massive head slightly tilted. Alex wasn't sure if it understood, but he felt the weight of its gaze. It was as if the creature was trying to communicate with him, trying to tell him something. Alex took a deep breath. He had to know the truth. "I need to know where you came from," Alex said, his voice barely a whisper. "Who are you? What happened to your people?" The alien didn't respond immediately. It simply ate, but its eyes never left Alex. Alex waited, hoping for some kind of answer, but all he got was silence. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that the alien was more than it seemed. There was something in its gaze, something that told him there was a story waiting to be told. Alex sat down beside the cage, his thoughts racing. He needed answers. He needed to understand the creature he had come to care for. But what if the truth was worse than he could imagine? What if the alien had done terrible things, things that would make him question everything? The alien finished eating and slowly moved to the far side of the cage, its enormous body shifting with surprising grace. Alex watched as the creature settled down, its eyes still fixed on him. He felt an overwhelming sense of urgency, as if he needed to know more before it was too late. The higher-ups wouldn't care about the alien's story. They wouldn't care about its past. They would only see it as a tool, something to be used for their own gain. Then, something strange happened. The alien made a low, rumbling sound unlike anything Alex had ever heard before. It wasn't a growl or a roar, but a deep, vibrating noise that seemed to come from the creature's chest. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Was it trying to communicate with him? He leaned closer to the bars, his eyes wide with surprise. The alien's eyes softened, and for the first time, it didn't look like a monster. It looked sad. Alex could feel the weight of its gaze, the unspoken pain behind those deep, ancient eyes. It was as if the alien was telling him without words that it had been through something terrible, something that had shaped its entire existence. Alex's mind raced. Could it be possible? Was this alien the last of its kind, a survivor of a terrible war? The more Alex thought about it, the more the pieces began to fall into place. This creature wasn't just a weapon. It was a survivor, a witness to a war that had destroyed its people. The military had captured it, but they didn't understand its true nature. They saw power, but not the tragedy behind it. Alex felt a surge of empathy for the alien. It wasn't a monster, it was a victim, and it had been locked away in this cage, isolated from the rest of the world, just because it was different. He realized then that his mission wasn't just to feed the alien or keep it company. It was to uncover the truth about its past, to understand its history. "I'm going to help you," Alex said softly, his voice filled with determination. "I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. You don't deserve this." The alien blinked slowly as if it understood his words. Alex wasn't sure what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. The creature wasn't just a prisoner, it was a survivor, and it had a story that needed to be heard. As Alex stood up and made his way toward the door, he glanced back one last time at the creature. The alien's eyes followed him, and for the first time, Alex felt that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't alone anymore. The weight of what Alex had discovered lingered in his thoughts like a heavy fog. The alien wasn't just a prisoner. It was a living, breathing being with a tragic past, and no one seemed to care. The more Alex learned, the more he realized that the creature was far more than just an experiment. It was a survivor, the last of its kind, trapped in a cage, its fate hanging by a thread. For the past few days, Alex had been thinking about the alien constantly. The higher-ups still treated it like a tool to be studied, but Alex knew better now. The alien had been through enough. It didn't deserve to be locked up and used as a weapon. It deserved freedom. But how could he possibly help it escape from the facility? The walls were thick, the security was tight, and the military personnel were always watching. But Alex wasn't the type to back down. He had spent enough time in the facility to know its layout, its weaknesses, and its routines. He wasn't some skilled soldier or trained operative, but he had something that the others didn't, a connection to the alien. He could feel it, an unspoken bond that went beyond words. If anyone could help the creature escape, it was him. That night, as the facility grew quieter, Alex began to make his plan. He knew he had to be careful. One wrong move and everything could go wrong. The guards were vigilant and the cameras were everywhere. Still, Alex was determined. He started by researching the facility's security system, learning more about the cameras, the gates, and the locks that kept the alien trapped. He couldn't just break in and expect to get away with it. He had to be strategic, smart. The first thing Alex needed was a distraction. He could hack into the security system to disable the cameras, but that would be too risky. Instead, he could cause a minor disruption elsewhere in the facility, a power surge or a malfunction that would draw the attention of the guards and security personnel. That would give him just enough time to move the alien without being noticed. The next challenge was getting into the containment area. The doors were reinforced and locked with a state-of-the-art security system. But Alex had seen the blueprints before. He knew the access codes, the emergency override switches. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't impossible either. If he could get inside the control room, he could open the door to the containment area and give the alien a chance to escape. Alex knew that once the alien was free, they would both be in danger. The higher-ups would stop at nothing to capture the creature again, and they would probably blame Alex for the escape. But at that moment, he didn't care about the consequences. All he could think about was the alien, trapped in its cage, suffering in silence. It was his responsibility now, and he wouldn't let it suffer any longer. The next few days were filled with planning and preparation. Alex continued his work as usual, pretending nothing was different. He spoke to the alien each time he visited, offering food and keeping the creature company. He didn't let on that he was planning something bigger, but he could sense the alien's growing trust in him. It seemed to understand that Alex was doing everything he could to help. It didn't show fear or resistance. It only watched him with those ancient eyes, waiting. On the night of the escape, Alex made his move. The facility was quieter than usual. The night shift guards were sleepy. The security personnel were distracted by a false alarm triggered on the other side of the facility, and the cameras blinked with a dull red light. It was the perfect opportunity. Alex slipped into the control room, keeping to the shadows. His heart raced as he approached the terminal, typing in the access codes he had memorized. The screen flashed green, indicating that the door to the containment area was now unlocked. He took a deep breath, feeling a wave of nervousness wash over him. This was it. There was no turning back. With the door unlocked, Alex quickly made his way down the long hallway toward the containment area. His footsteps echoed in the silence of the empty corridors, and for a moment he thought he heard someone coming. But the sound faded, and Alex pressed on, determined not to lose his nerve. He couldn't afford to be caught now. When he reached the containment area, he took one last glance over his shoulder. The guards were still distracted, the alarm still blaring in the distance. He slid the door open quietly, and there, in the dim light, was the alien. Its massive form was still, its eyes locked on Alex as it always did. But tonight, something was different. There was a quiet understanding between them, an unspoken agreement that the moment had come. "Let's go," Alex whispered, his voice barely audible. The alien rose to its feet, its massive body shifting, with a fluid grace that surprised Alex. For a moment, Alex felt a pang of uncertainty. Could he really pull this off? Could he really get the alien out of here without getting caught? But the alien didn't hesitate. It moved toward the open door, its claws clicking softly against the floor. Alex stepped aside, allowing the creature to pass. The alien's eyes never left him as it moved, its silent strength evident in every step. Alex felt a rush of relief wash over him as he followed the creature into the hallway. They were almost there. Just a few more steps, and they would be out. But then something unexpected happened. A door ahead of them creaked open, and Alex froze. A guard stepped into the hallway, his eyes immediately locking onto the alien. The guard's face registered shock and confusion, and Alex's heart skipped a beat. "Hey!" the guard shouted, reaching for his communicator. Alex didn't waste a second. Without thinking, he lunged at the guard, knocking the communicator out of his hand. The guard stumbled backward, his eyes wide with surprise. Alex pushed him aside, not bothering to check if he was okay. They didn't have time for that. The alien was already moving, its massive form surging forward with strength and speed. The guard tried to reach for his weapon, but the alien was faster. In a single motion, it knocked the weapon from his hand and sent him flying against the wall with a loud crash. Alex looked at the alien in awe. It wasn't just a survivor. It was a warrior, and it wasn't afraid to fight if it meant escaping. "Come on," Alex shouted, grabbing the creature's arm and pulling it down the hall. The two of them sprinted toward the exit, the sound of alarms blaring in the distance. Alex's heart raced as they neared the outer door. The guards were sure to be on their tail, but Alex didn't look back. He couldn't afford to. All that mattered was getting the alien out of here. They reached the final door, and Alex quickly typed in the override code. The door slid open, and the cool night air rushed in. Alex's breath caught in his throat as he stepped outside, the alien right behind him. For the first time in what felt like forever, Alex felt like he had a chance. He had freed the alien, and together they would escape the nightmare that had been their prison. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he and the alien stood just outside the facility's gates. The night air was cool, the stars above a sharp contrast to the chaos they had just left behind. The alarms were blaring somewhere far in the distance, but here in the open the world was quiet, peaceful. For a brief moment, Alex allowed himself to breathe, feeling a sense of freedom that he had never known before. He had done it. He had helped the alien escape. But as the initial rush of adrenaline began to fade, Reality set in. The alien was free, but so were the consequences. Alex knew the higher-ups would stop at nothing to get it back. They would chase him down, hunt him, and probably imprison him for the rest of his life. The alien wasn't just a creature to them, it was a weapon, a living tool of immense power. If they realized what Alex had done, there would be no escaping the fallout. "We can't stay here long," Alex whispered, turning to the alien whose large eyes were scanning the dark landscape, its expression calm but alert. It was incredible how quickly the creature had adjusted to the change. It wasn't acting aggressively. Instead, it seemed to understand that it needed to remain calm, to keep moving. Alex's gaze darted to the horizon. They were out of the facilities, grounds, but there were still miles to go before they could find real safety. The thought of what they were running from gnawed at him. What would happen if they were caught? Would the alien be locked away again? Worse yet, would Alex be blamed and thrown into a prison cell, his life erased for breaking the rules? "We need to get to the forest," Alex said, looking toward the thick woods that loomed a few miles ahead. It was their best chance for hiding. The forest would give them cover, at least for a while, until they could figure out what to do next. The alien nodded slightly, as if it understood. Its long legs moved with surprising grace, and Alex kept pace, walking alongside it as they made their way toward the forest's edge. The distance seemed endless, and Alex's mind raced, trying to think of a plan. What would they do once they reached the woods? Where would they go? How could they survive in a world that saw the alien as nothing more than a weapon? As they walked, Alex noticed something strange. The alien seemed to be following him, moving with an ease that made it look as if it had done this before. Escaping, hiding, running. Its posture was no longer stiff and defensive. It was walking alongside him, as if it trusted him, as if it knew Alex was leading it to safety, leading it to something better. But Alex wasn't so sure. He didn't have all the answers. He wasn't some skilled strategist or expert in survival. He was just a technician who had seen a creature in need and couldn't walk away. But now he was responsible. For the first time in his life, Alex felt the weight of true responsibility, and he didn't know if he was ready for it. The forest was closer now, the trees thick and dense, providing cover from any prying eyes. Alex pushed forward, focusing on putting one foot in front of the other. They couldn't stop yet. Not until they were far enough away from the facility. Suddenly, Alex heard something, a noise in the distance. It was faint but unmistakable. A vehicle, perhaps? His heart skipped a beat as he turned his head toward the sound. It was hard to tell where it was coming from, but it was definitely getting closer. "They're coming," Alex muttered to himself. His mind raced, panic threatening to take over. The facility would have detected the breach by now, and they would be sending out search teams to find them. Alex had no idea how much time they had left. He looked at the alien, who was still walking, with him unfazed by the increasing tension in the air. The creature's large eyes met his, and for a brief moment Alex thought he saw something that looked almost like understanding, or even gratitude. "We need to move faster," Alex said, trying to keep his voice steady. He didn't want the alien to sense his fear. They had come so far already, but the journey was far from over. Alex increased his pace, leading the alien deeper into the woods, hoping that the thick trees would offer some protection. The sound of the vehicle grew louder, and Alex felt his chest tighten. He couldn't let them get caught. He wouldn't let them be dragged back to the facility. The alien had suffered enough. Suddenly there was a flash of light followed by the sound of engines roaring. Alex whipped around, his breath catching in his throat. A group of military vehicles appeared in the distance, their headlights cutting through the darkness, and Alex knew they were closing in. "They're right behind us," Alex shouted, panic creeping into his voice. The alien seemed to sense the urgency. It moved faster now, pushing through the underbrush with surprising speed, its massive form moving like a shadow through the trees. Alex could barely keep up. The alien's stride was longer, its legs carrying it farther with each step, and Alex was struggling to match its pace. "Keep going," Alex urged, his voice barely more than a whisper. He didn't dare stop to look back. The sound of the vehicles was growing louder. The search teams were getting closer, and Alex could hear the commotion in the distance. The sound of military boots crashing through the woods, voices calling out orders, commands to find and capture the alien. Alex's mind raced as he searched for a place to hide. There had to be somewhere they could go, some place they could lie low until they figured out what to do. The alien, for all its power, was still a captive, and Alex knew they couldn't keep running forever. Just ahead he spotted a cave, a small opening in the side of a hill. Without hesitation, Alex turned toward it and motioned for the alien to follow. The alien hesitated for a moment, then darted forward, its eyes fixed on the entrance. The moment they entered the cave, the sounds of the search teams faded, muffled by the thick walls of rock. Alex leaned against the cave's entrance, his chest heaving as he tried to calm his racing heart. "We're safe for now," Alex said, though he knew it wasn't the end. This was just a temporary solution. The real challenge was still ahead. They had escaped, but the question remained. What would they do now? The alien stood in the shadows, its massive form barely visible in the dim light. Alex could feel its presence, its silent strength, its determination. And for the first time, since he had made the decision to help, Alex realized that this wasn't just about the alien anymore. It was about both of them. "We'll figure this out," Alex promised, his voice steady despite the fear that still gripped him. "We'll make it. Together." The alien didn't respond with words. It didn't need to. Its eyes, glowing faintly, in the darkness, spoke volumes. For the first time, Alex felt a sense of hope. They weren't alone anymore, and somehow that made all the difference.